These 4 exercises will build 90% of the muscle in your body. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you are not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to let me know if you agree with these 4 down below or you would pick something totally different, I'd totally love to hear about it. So thank you so much. Let's get over and talk about it. All right, right up front, we already know it's going to be the barbell back squat. It's going to be number 1. I've said over and over and over, the back squat's the king of exercises. Nothing else competes with this in terms of its ability to just put muscle, fitness, athletic ability on you. While the deadlift, which is up here too, is a very close second. The barbell back squat's going to win out because of the ability to build the quads maximally compared to the deadlift, because again, you get a deeper knee bend. Arguably might even be better for glutes, okay? Those are the 2 biggest muscles in your entire body. The back squat builds them tremendously. It builds tons of other stabilizers. Will build your calves, muscles throughout your core, right? Throughout your trunk, parts of your back. Right behind it, obviously going to be the deadlift. All right, these 2 are pretty much going to cover most of your really serious bases, to be fair. The deadlift might not get as much quad, arguably maybe not as much glute because of the angles involved, but it will absolutely build them. It builds your hamstrings, your calves, it builds large amounts of muscle in your back, your traps, muscles all throughout your core and trunk. So we need to be clear, like right up front, about 70% of the muscle in your body is going to be stimulated. Of the total muscle fibers through your body between these 2 movements, they're going to make you grow. And obviously they're a little more lower body dominant, although the deadlift in studies has caused tremendous amounts of upper back development and just back development in general. This has been found. The only study that looked at it really looked close at deadlift hypertrophy. It actually produced profound amounts of growth in the upper body, like just on a big scan that was done. It didn't go into individual muscles, but it's interesting. A lot of guys will try to say, well, it doesn't make you big. Yet when it's been studied, it does. Okay, makes a lot of muscle through the upper body, all through the back, through the trunk, grew in the study that looked at it. Look at any form of EMG, which isn't necessarily a growth study, is tremendous in the lats, the erectors, hamstrings, all sorts of stuff. It is just a phenomenal exercise. And quite frankly, your whole lower body will develop from these 2. I mean, if you do just these 2 and then maybe throw in some calf work, you're going to have a pretty well-developed lower body if you get pretty strong at them. Not necessarily everything you need to maximize it, say, to compete in bodybuilding, but if you're wanting to just have really big legs that other people notice, these 2 lifts will do it, and they will build your glutes too. Guys and girls, this matters in terms of your total attractiveness. Trust me on this. But they also, it's lower body movements that do build the upper body, and they'll build a lot of your foundation. They'll build your trunk, your core, your abdominal wall, all of these things, right? When it comes to then the upper body specific stuff, I'm going to go with the bench press and I'm going to go with the pull up. Now, for people who want a little more bicep, we can make a case for the chin up. But here's the thing. We can do close variations of these movements. That's the other thing. When I say these movements, it doesn't mean you can't do some different bars. It doesn't mean you can't do a deficit deadlift. Doesn't mean you can't do high bar squat, low bar squat. Even though I say the back squat, you could even work in front squats. The thing is, it's close enough variations of these 4 movements are going to get a lot done. So again, if we start looking at the upper body, I'm going to say, the bench press, right? Barbell bench press. And I do mean with the barbell because it's a big, heavy movement, works the entire chest, does work the triceps to some extent, okay? Works them to some extent. And so it's just an all-around good movement. It builds the upper body, but again, really good on the chest. But someone could say, well, what if I wanted more tricep? Well, you could do a closed grip. You could do a reverse grip. You could do an incline. You could do a decline. If you want more upper chest and shoulder, you could do incline. You could do decline. But the thing is, the bench press itself, it is a phenomenal upper body builder. And again, there's plenty of evidence to this, both real world and in the lab. You'll get people who are like, oh, it doesn't build a great chest. Really, tons of guys with amazing chests all through the 60s and 70s swore by the bench press. Multiple later Mr. Olympias swore by the bench press as their chest builder. Every study that looks at it, it builds the entire pec major, the upper, middle, and lower part, the whole muscle, very effectively if you perform it. It's because guys train it like a clown. They're like, it hurts my shoulders. Well, if you do it the way I'm doing it, it won't. Stack your wrist, perform the lift correctly. It's phenomenal upper body builder. All right, same thing we could take with the pull-up. You know, a lot of guys get some decent bicep development. Biceps might be the only thing lagging out of these. Of course, you could always do chins. And for a lot of people, that's why for my big five, I'll throw these four in and say, throw in some barbell curls, because then all your bases are covered. But even the pull-ups, when you look at pull-up, yes, it's going to work the lats, the rear delts, all this stuff. You know, people who will say, well, maybe it won't get the upper back as well as rows. Yeah, but we already threw deadlifts in here. It's this combination of these four. And I'm not saying it's going to build 100%. We're back over to 90% of the muscle in your body. Yeah, there's going to be a few things that are lagging. But if 90% of the muscles in your body are hit, isn't it kind of easy to come through and shore up the rest? And again, I'm not saying you're going to be winning bodybuilding shows, but if you're just looking for efficiency, you want to get really strong, really jacked, really fit, really well developed with the fewest exercises and just come in and focus on some things, you could build your base on these movements, right? You could absolutely build your base with these movements. Gosh, throw in a little bit of arm work, a little bit of calf work, and most novices will probably be the most jacked guy possible for the time frame, you know, within a year or two. Same thing for girls, particularly chasing glutes, chasing legs. The squat and deadlift are keen for that. But again, you come over, you look at the pull-up, phenomenal for lats. But it builds all the other muscles too of the upper back, the middle back. It builds forearms. It even does put stress on the long head of the tricep that gets a little neglected on the bench, you know. But again, if you're worried about more biceps, I'm gonna do chins instead. And even in this whole mix, I could throw in as an honorary mention the weighted dip. You know, if a person's just chasing hypertrophy and maybe they want a little more arm than some of this, they could rotate the bench over for a weighted dip. So it makes an honorary mention. Same thing, you could do chin-ups and dips. You get really good at weighted dips and weighted chin-ups, you're still going to have a pretty dang well-developed upper body. And then you look at the squat and the deadlift, those are essentially weighted body weight exercises. So again, you could do the same thing there with a bias towards that. And honestly, a lot of people would do really, really well. But by that same token, I could also say just take these 4 lifts and just focus on your arms after that. Most guys are going to have a really good physique as long as they're reasonably lean, right? As long as they're reasonably lean, these lifts will get you there. And I mean, again, you could throw in dips, throw in some curls, right? Throw in some calf raises. Throw in those 3 things on top of these 4. And again, you're not going to be winning bodybuilding shows, but if you get really good at them, you're still going to be really jacked. You're going to be really well developed. You're going to be reasonably balanced. Okay? Just throwing that out there. But again, these 4 will get you 90% of the way there. Put your focus into them, get good at them, master them, progressively overload on them, and any man or woman will build a very respectable base off of just these 4 movements. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.